Hey guys, we're here with Diego, and on this episode we're going to be talking about migrating from Entity Framework with EDMX to Entity Framework Core. Join us. Hi everyone, my name is Christos, and we're here with Diego once again to talk about Entity Framework goodness and migrating to Entity Framework Core. So we had Diego last time, and we talked about migrating from Entity Framework 6 to Entity Framework Core using a code-first approach.
Yep.
But I think we left one big part over there, which was migrating EDMX-based projects into Entity Framework Core, which is not really a straight kind of a migration, right?
That's right. So we have many customers that are using the EF designer. So they have basically an XML file that contains the definition of the EF model in their project. And the steps to migrate to EF Core, if you are using that, are different. So we wanted to explore that in more detail.
Okay. Now, why should I want to move?
So the reason you may want to move to EF Core is because you want to take advantage of the new features. We keep investing on EF Core, on adding new features and new functionality and new performance, better performance. And if you want to take advantage of all of that, especially on .NET Core, then you probably want to be on the modern version of EF, that is EF Core.
Gotcha. Now, is it easy to move? Like, is it straight to run a file and everything upgrades, or run a bit of upgrade?
Not always. I mean, it depends on how much code you have and how many entities you have and the complexity of the model and what features you are using. So we're going to look into some details today, like what happens if you have inheritance and if you have many-to-many relationships, which are features that EF Core doesn't support yet.
Right.
So we're going to see that it doesn't completely matter because the way the database looks like when you have those features in EF6, we can map to that database using EF Core. But the code and your entities are not going to look the same.
And I think the other thing we're discussing prior to this was also that there are scenarios where EF6, people that have invested in EF6 EDMX based scenarios may not want to move at all if they're happy with their database, right?
That is true. So the big thing that we have been doing lately with EF6 is ported to .NET Core.
Nice.
So in .NET Core 3.0, you are going to be able to run EF6.
Okay.
That means that if you have an existing application that has been working with EF6 and it works well, basically you are happy with the performance and you're happy with the set of features that you have in EF6, then instead of moving to EF Core, you can choose to just stay on EF6 and move to .NET Core anyway.
Perfect. So you get the benefits of .NET Core 3.0 without you having to do any code changes, so you minimize the risk.
Exactly.
Perfect.
You may still need to do some code changes for different reasons, but the idea is to minimize them. That's the keyword.
Yes. Fantastic. Excellent. Now, would you like to show us how it should be done? And actually, yes, let's go with the demo, right?
Yeah, I wanted to show first, there is a page in the documentation here. If you go to the docs.microsoft site under EF, there is this port to EF Core page in the documentation that we are going to update. Actually, we are planning to point to these videos that we are recording today and the one that we recorded last time.
Perfect.
And we're going to complete this information with all the new information about EF6 on .NET Core and many steps that we are exploring today.
Yes, and also we'll have the code from today and the previous episodes.
Yeah, we have to. I have to add a link to the repo where we're going to have all this code. And
we'll make sure we add the description. So as you look at this video, make sure you check the description to find all the information and the links to the documents and the repo. Right.
That's right. Yes.
Demo time.
Okay, so let me show you. This is basically an EDMX file that contains a definition of a model.
Perfect.
I have in blue like 3 entities that are from the same model that we discussed last time. That is an issue tracker, basically a very simplified version of an issue tracker. It has a repo table, an issue table, comments table. Then there is another table that is the user that is basically linked to all of them because users can create repos. Yeah. Users can be assigned to issues. And then I added something that I didn't have on the code first version, that is inheritance. So this enhancement is basically a type of issue that is mapped to the database using a strategy that is called table per type. This means that there is a table for enhancements that in this case only contains the ID of the issue
Yep.
and a new column that is votes.
Okay.
Basically, because issues are contain already all the other information that is common between issues and this other entity that is bugs.
All right.
But I want to have additional information for enhancements. For instance, enhancements have people voting for them because they want this feature.
Yep.
And bugs have repro steps
Yes.
that
Okay.
enhancements don't have.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to show that detail here.
Okay.
And this is a very simple application, more or less the same thing I had last time. I have some code. I'm going to just walk through while we debug through everything that we are doing on this application.
Okay. So this is running the application as is with the old EDMX-based
Exactly.
solution. Perfect.
Yeah. So first of all, I have like some code here that is cleaning up because I want to start from scratch. Now I have this API that I call to just create the database based on that model, and it works with EDMX the same that it works for CodeFirst.
Mm-hmm.
Now I start adding some data. So I'm going to add myself and one of the engineers on the team. And I'm going to add a repo, a repository, an issue that in this case is an enhancement that is considered important to EF core. And it has one vote. And now I'm going to add some comment. Basically, are we done yet?
Yeah. Okay.
And I save this, and then I have some other code that executes a query that says, okay, I want to query for the repos where the name is port EF6 to EF core, and I want to include who created it. I want to include also what issues it contains, and I'm using the syntax that includes supports on EF6 to include the issues and the assignees of that issue. Perfect. I wanted to show also there is a relationship here between issues and user. Mm-hmm. That is basically the assignees, and it's a many-to-many relationship.
Gotcha.
So it has like asterisk on this side and asterisk on this side. That means that
many to many.
There are two collections pointing to each other on the model. And I execute this, and I basically have a method that shows that on the UI. My UI is just text. I could make this a little bit bigger. I guess if I can do that quickly, that would be great. And I just show that I have an enhancement that has one vote, and the common data for an issue, and people that are assigned to that issue, and the comment. So all that code in the bind is basically using this feature, the pattern matching on C#. So nice. If this issue happens to be an enhancement, then I'm going to show the information from an enhancement, that in this case is the number of votes. And if it is a bug, then I'm going to show the repro steps. But all I had in the database was an enhancement. So.
Perfect.
And this is just a bunch of loops that are iterating over the data in that query. So the idea is how to make this work on EF now. And let me tell you, there are two options in theory.
Okay.
So one is, let's say that you have invested a lot of time trying to make the property names in your model prettier than the names of the columns in the database. Let's say that you have been working with a legacy database, and your column names are awful, yes, and you don't want to have the property names in your entities with the same names. You have renamed a lot. Then there is a lot of value in the code that you already have in your EDMX and the code that the templates generate from the EDMX. So you have C# classes now, or BB classes that are based on those pretty names that you chose. Yep. And you don't want to lose that. Sure. So if you are in that situation, probably the best option is to take all those code files with the classes and move them somewhere else in a different project maybe, or just copy them in the disk, then remove the EDMX and bring them back, and start creating all the mapping and all the additional code that you need to create in order to remap those entities to the existing database. But that's going to be complicated. Yes. So there is another option that is what I wanted to show today, which is basically, EF core, I didn't mention it today, but I think we mentioned it last time, it doesn't have a designer. It only has a code-based experience. So that is correct. Basically, you use code first, but you don't need to think about code first as, you need to write the code first and then the database gets created. Code first is all about having a code-based experience. So the database can exist, and you can get a model from an existing database.
Yes.
It's only like that model, the way it works is called code first.
So we reverse engineer the database to generate the code first code, more or less, right?
That's right. So the first thing I'm going to do, I need to do a bunch of manual steps here, and I hope I'm not going to make any mistakes because then it's going to take longer, but the first thing I want to do is uninstall EF in this project.
Okay. So this is removing the NuGet package of the older Entity Framework version.
That's right.
Perfect.
So I remove it.
Bye-bye.
And now the next step is basically I want to get rid of this EDMX file.
Yes.
So this file was interesting because it contains some things that I customize. It's basically when I reverse engineer an existing database, I'm never going to get inheritance. I actually did that manually here.
Right.
But I'm going to still get on EF Core something that is very similar and that allows me to work with those tables.
Right.
So let me do that.
So in this case, we're not keeping any of the old designer-generated files, and we're blasting everything. We're starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's correct. So and you're going to see that now I have my code in the application that I basically had everything on the program CS file. And it's not going to compile because all these classes don't exist anymore.
Yep.
And this namespace doesn't exist anymore on this project because I don't have the package anymore.
Sure.
So I could delete this, but now you also have two options. One is to basically do it all by hand.
Okay.
Go manual.
Sounds painful.
So the first thing I'm going to do is install package, and I'm going to install the equivalent package that is Entity Framework Core.SQL Server, because I was using SQL Server.
Sure.
And that's going to bring a bunch of dependencies. There are like small DLLs that I need to run EF Core on .NET Framework in this case. And then the next package I'm going to add is the tools for Visual Studio.
Yep.
So that you can do the same kind of migration commands. And we added a command line command that is to basically reverse engineer the database into code first. So the next package, I'm going to replace this with just tools. Okay, so once I have this installed, there is a command that is scaffold dbcontext that I want to show. It has two options that I would need to use in this case. One is a connection, and here I need to pass the connection string.
Okay.
And then the other one is I can use data notations. It's basically this is telling the code generation that I prefer to use data notations when it's possible to do the mapping.
Sure.
Otherwise, it needs to make more calls to Fluent APIs in code first to get the same result. And the other thing that is mandatory is the provider. So basically, here I would need to tell, okay, I want to use this provider. And that's basically the name of the package that I installed before, the Microsoft Entity Framework Core SQL Server. So that will work, but I want to show something that is easier.
Oh.
If you are using Visual Studio, there is a community project that is called the EF Core Power Tools.
Oh.
That's driven by one of our MVPs, that is Eric AJ. He has been active on the EF space for a very long time, and he is doing many things that are very useful. In this case, we have a UI basically to create this model based on the database.
Very nice.
So I'm going to right-click on the project. I go to EF Core Power Tools, and here I'm going to say Reverse Engineer.
Nice.
So first, I need to select a connection. This one is actually pointing to the database that I want.
Does this come from your application package, appconfig? Is it picking up from the appconfig?
I actually am not sure if it does that or if it remembers the last things that you did.
Right.
Anyway, I'm going to create this again.
Sure.
This is the normal name of the local DB server that you have installed with Visual Studio. And I'm going to pick the database here. That is issue tracking. and I'm going to go to the next step. Here it shows me the list of tables that I have. There is a new version in EF Core 3.0. You are going to be able to select not only tables, but also views.
Very nice.
But this is using EF Core 2.2 still. And I'm going to add also some other options here. So the name of the context name that this is going to generate, I'm going to correct this case in here. The namespace is basically the namespace of the application. I don't need to change the project path. I'm going to add this option to pluralize or singularize. That basically means if there is a issues table on the database and the names are in English, then this is going to run some code that is going to find the word issue that is a singular, and it's going to name the entity as issue instead of issues.
Okay. And just to be clear, this is a UI on top of the command line, right? So anything that you do here is also available through the command line.
It is, but on the command line, some of the things that this tool can do take a lot of work.
Right.
Like, for instance, the singularization, you need to plug in a singularizer in your code before you run the tool.
Understood.
Yeah, so this is great.
So this is making our life a lot easier.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And the option to use data annotations or to prefer data annotations is there. And this has another option, which is use handlebars. Handlebars is a toolkit based on templates to do code generation.
Okay.
So when you check this option, I'm not going to use it today, you get a handlebars template in your app. So if you want to customize the output and you want to customize what code gets generated, you can modify the handlebars template.
Right.
It's very similar to T4.
Yes,
but
I'm aware
it's
of it.
different.
Yeah.
It's similar in concept, at least, not necessarily how it works.
Templating stuff. Nice.
Yeah. And it tells me install the EF Core provider package in the project. So that means I didn't really need to do that before, but I did it already, so I'm going to just leave it out.
It's doing everything for us. Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's run this. Okay, model generated successfully. If I look at what it generated here, it basically added the entities that I wanted, and it added the issue tracking context. So mostly what I had in programs now should be fine.
Okay.
So this namespace doesn't apply anymore because this is the namespace for EF6.
Yes, that's the old one.
So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to replace it with Microsoft.Entity Framework Core, which is the main namespace for EF Core.
Yep.
These APIs don't apply anymore. In EF Core, we have ensure deleted and ensure created, if you want to do the same thing.
Yep.
These are mostly the same, but there is a change in what add returns. Add returns a DB entity entry now in EF Core. So if you want to get the entity back, again, you have to do the entity. We did the same thing on the code first version.
Right.
Same for this one. Same for this one. And for this one. But there are a few more changes that I need here. So this is the first big change. So on the EF6 model, enhancement was an entity that derived from issues. So all the properties from issue were there.
Yes.
In this new model, I switched from using inheritance to use composition, basically.
Right.
So basically enhancement, now if I look at the code, it just represents an entity that is associated with an issue.
Right.
But it only has the ID that is its own primary key, but also acts as a foreign key to the issue.
Right.
And the votes.
Yep.
So basically, there was a restriction that we had before that doesn't apply anymore. So in the previous model, an issue could only be either a bug or an enhancement.
Yes.
So it could not have if it was an enhancement, it was impossible for it to have repro steps, right?
Yes.
And that makes sense.
Yep.
But if it was a bug, it was impossible for it to have votes, and that doesn't totally make sense.
Okay.
So it depends on what you are trying to model from the real world, but sometimes inheritance is not the right way to model things.
Okay.
Sometimes, for instance, one thing that you may want to be able to do is to mutate the type, to say, okay, this person that used to be an employee, now I want this person to be a customer.
Right.
And well, the only way to do that if you are using inheritance is to delete the employee and create a new customer with the same identity, basically.
Yep.
So this other way of doing things actually allows you to say, oh, this thing can be two things at the same time, because basically you are using composition now, and the aspect of it being an enhancement can be added to the basic issue, and then the aspect of it being a bug can be added as well. And if you decide that something that you thought was a bug is actually an enhancement, then you can change it without deleting it. So there are some advantages of this way of doing it.
At least for this scenario, it helps us model closer to the real world case rather than being constricted by the functionality of Entity Framework. Perfect.
That's right. It really depends on what you are modeling. There are things that really match what inheritance does very well, but there are things that don't. So in this case, the aspect that is not so nice is that we are going to have to change the code.
Okay.
So here we need to add an issue, actually. It's not an enhancement anymore, it's just the base class.
Right.
Because the base class is the one that has almost all the properties. But there are a couple of things that you're going to see here that don't still show wiggle lines because different reasons. Okay. Let's go to the first one. So on issue, we have some things that didn't get generated exactly the way we wanted. So one of the conventions of the reverse engineering that the F-core does is that when it doesn't figure out the name of the navigation property very well, it just takes the foreign key and appends the word navigation to it.
Right, okay.
So this is not something that we really want in the model, so I'm going to just rename this to created by, which is what I had before.
Yep.
The other thing that I don't like here, for instance, I have ID navigation here, but I'm not going to go into renaming everything because it would take a long time.
Sure.
This other thing that changed here is, well, that was a many-to-many association.
Yes.
So it was a collection of assignees. It's a collection of users that were assigned. And I cannot have that anymore because EF-core doesn't support many-to-many. So I need to have the link table here mapped to an entity. So this is actually assignments now. Because it's assignments, then I need to create a list of assignments. Sorry, I'm not exactly that kind of assignment. And now these two people are actually users. So I need to create a new object that is assignment and say, okay, the user for that assignment is Vega, and new assignment user. Well, I said username, but I actually meant user. Okay, the reason I cannot do user is because there is another property that got named differently from what I would want in the assignment entity. So I have this username navigation that I just want to be user. So I'll rename it, and I go back to this code so I can assign it directly. And I'm missing, I believe, one of these.
New bracket.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then boats shows wiggly lines because boats is actually a property of enhancement. So what I have to do here is basically remove boats from the issue and create another entity. So I'm going to say var enhancement equals to context dot, and this got generated for me automatically.
Yep.
Enhancements are now their own table, so they get their own property.
Yep.
And I say add, and the new enhancement, and then I can add the two things here. So one is I need to relate it to the previous issue.
Yep.
So the issue that is actually, I need to rename it, is issue, and the votes was 1, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I need the semicolon here. Let's go rename this as well. This is just an issue. Okay, so I'm fixing the program as we go. So now we have many-to-many replaced with a link table, and we have the composition instead of inheritance for enhancement.
Perfect.
And this one is also one that needs renamed. Yeah, so let's go to the next one. And the one that is wrong is this one. Okay, now it lets me do it. So now I need to think about what to do with include, given that things have changed a little bit. So this one is one that needs to be renamed as well. So let me go to, in this case, is the repo class. I could have just searched and replaced all the things that were not named correctly to the right thing, but I didn't do it. So, okay, so that one is now okay. Now I need to use a different syntax here. We look at this when we did the code first version as well. So to do this multi-level include, there is a new method that is called then include. So basically you replace that pattern with then include. And we said before that there are no more assignees directly. So this is an assignment. And there is another then include here because I actually want to bring the user that is behind that assignment, right? So for an assignment, give me the user that is behind it. Maybe I made a mistake here, a typo. Yeah, it's assignments actually. It's a navigation property of multiple assignments. So there is that. For this one, I need to do the same thing because the syntax with the nested select doesn't work on EF core. And I believe I need to include a couple of things more. I'm going to do that later. And another thing that changed between EF6 and EF core, this .local is no longer an observable collection. So I have a toObservable collection method. So I can satisfy the signature of the next bind method.
Right.
That takes an observable collection. So this code that I had here that just switched on the type
doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't work anymore. So what I need to do is actually say something like if issue dot enhancement is not null, then I'm going to print information about it.
Yep.
Right. So in this case, I would do something like dot enhancement votes. And now something can be an enhancement and a bug at the same time. So I'm just going to add another if that says if issue bug is not null, then let's print the information about the bug that is relevant. And I'm missing an opening curly brace. And this is issue dot the bug aspect of it has repro steps. Okay, so now this is the same thing that we were talking about before.
Yep.
This is now assignments. So it means basically now I need to go through let's rename this and say, well, the name of the user is not directly on assignment. You need to go one property more, that is the user.
Yep.
Same for the full name.
Almost there.
Almost there. So there are a few things that I remember I need to change on the context that got generated.
Okay.
So all this code compiles, but when I generate the code using these EF core power tools, this doesn't include a connection string anymore.
Right.
So temporarily, just to make it work and to show that I can connect to that database, I'm going to add it here.
Do not do this in production.
Yeah. So use SQL Server is the way to do it. And here I can do, local DB. I need to use double because this is C#.
Yep.
I missed actually the keyword here. This is a server. Now the initial catalog, that is the database, is going to be issue tracking. And I'm going to do a integrated security.
SSPM.
Yeah, true. And semicolon. Okay, so this should almost work. Let's try to see what fails, and we go from there.
I say it runs.
I think it may run, but it's going to miss some information because I didn't include everything that I had before.
Okay.
So this is taking a little bit to compile and run. Let's step through. One thing I want to do actually. I'm going to comment all this code that deletes the database and creates the database and fills it because I want to show that I actually can connect to the same database that I created before.
Very good point.
I don't want to
wipe
delete
everything
this.
else.
Yeah.
For
So
now.
let me go. Yeah. Oh, this is a bit slow. That's surprising. So I think I can comment all this code. Maybe my curly braces don't match anymore. Yeah. I need to comment this one too. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to run the query.
Yep.
And see how it goes. So it's compiling and running. And this should have connected to the database already, unless something went wrong. Okay, so there are a few things that are not needed in or have the wrong names of the properties here.
Okay.
So on the assignment property, there is an inverse property attribute for the navigation property user. So let's go change those. The problem is that when you rename properties, all the strings don't get renamed.
Okay.
In this case, I think that it would be okay to remove this. Was it this one?
Did say
the one that you complained about? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Foreign key username, US property, assignments, yeah. So let's see what else
comes up.
Okay, similar error created by an entity type issue, navigation issues are not pointing to each other. Okay, inverse and issue. Let's get rid of those. Yeah, this one, for instance, is wrong, basically. I'm just going to rename it, to delete it. And the user pointing to issues. Yeah, if I go to user, some of these are probably not named correctly. Okay, no, this seems to be okay. Let's try again until we get rid of the things that are wrong. It's interesting that it takes a little bit to start. Oh, I didn't stop last time. I guess let's put a breakpoint here. Let's just run the whole program. Yeah, this one is complaining about inversion created by type issue. Maybe that's the one that it was complaining about before.
Yeah, we need to go and remove that.
On issue. Yeah, I forgot to remove that. So this attribute is useful when you are not doing fluent configuration for your relationships, because it allows you to say very quickly, hey, by the way, the navigation property that is pointing on the other direction is this one. Whereas navigation property assignments and user on type user is not valid. I think that it would be, probably things would work if I just get rid of all of them, but let's try that.
Brute force.
Yep. Yeah, I want to recognize that this is a little bit painful. That is a manual process.
It is. There's no direct path for upgrading, and we recognize that, but at least we give people a way of migrating if they need to migrate, right?
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, so what things are missing now in the data that I'm showing? Let's see. So we have the assignees, and we have the comments, but we don't have anything about the
count.
The count of votes, exactly. So, and the reason is basically now that's a separate entity.
Yep.
And I didn't include it. So I wrote code to actually say if this one is null or not null, basically print this.
Yep.
But I didn't include it, so it's always null. So include, basically I need to start also, on the issue. And then I'm going to say then include basically for this, issue, go to the enhancement aspect of it.
Yep.
And that should be sufficient for us to get the data for the data that we have in the database.
Okay.
So if I run this again, and let me change this to be a little bit bigger. Yeah, now it shows that the votes are
job
one.
done.
That's right.
In less than 20 minutes.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it is painful, as we recognize that, but now that we have steps on how to do it, and there's documentation that explains how you can go from EDMX to EF Core, I think people can weigh the challenges and they can weigh the risks of doing that. And then if they feel that the benefits outweigh the effort of manually migrating to that, then it's worth doing the migration.
I agree.
It's something that you need to personally look at and then identify the need for the migration. But I like now that we have both a code-first approach and an EDMX approach on going to EF Core.
That's right.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time.
You are welcome. Thank you for this
for your demo. And thanks everyone for joining us.